let's talk about what is astroturfing.
It's a deceptive process.
All right, so we are back live with Jane Scharf, and she's not only on the road rocking and rolling, but she's pulling over just to do a quick interview because we want to cover that subject that we lightly mentioned last week, astroturfing. And so Jane and I are going to have a good conversation to let you know what that is and how you can spot it for yourself. And there's some key lines that we're going to deliver to you guys that when you hear someone say that, you go, oh, wait a minute. Or you see someone pushing something specific, you go, oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Okay, so you're here to understand what astroturfing is and some of the things that you might be able to tune in your own ears to, because we're all about people knowing their rights and having their own discernment as an individual and making their own decisions and self-representing and empowering themselves with the truth across the board. All right. So first, Jane, let's talk about, because I know everybody already knows you, we've introduced you, and let's talk about what is astroturfing. What is that all about? What is that?
Well, it's a deceptive process that tries to claim that they're doing grassroots organizing. So they'll start with some kind of contentious issue that they know people want to get organized about and want to do something about. And they present, of course, as though they're, outraged on whatever topic it is. And then they have resources too. So they have resources to have a well-oiled website for material, like written material. Even like now I'm seeing that they're putting a lot of money into videography. You can tell that they're quite expensive little videos that they put out. They're not just, ma and pa type ones. And one group has a huge space, like meeting place, like $7,000 a month. And apparently there's no cost to it. Some philanthropist, what is it? What the company was, surveillance cameras. That's what that's what the business was, and we're not sure, but I hope it's not the surveillance cameras that they're putting up all over the place now that are going to be used to monitor the 15-minute city. That might be that company, because they seem to have a high interest in the astroturfing. And then so what it does is it tries to present as though it's grassroots, but they manipulate the focus and they manipulate the message coming out of it. So they can make sure that the focus is something ineffective, and they can make sure that the message isn't damaging the direction that the whatever is trying to go. In this case, it's the UN that's driving these agendas. But
so ultimately, it's something that looks probably fairly legit, appears to be somewhat grassroots, but they'll start to get a budget and make it look like, see, people are really getting behind this. This is your answer, but ultimately it's not, because they're controlling the direction and the narrative on the opposite side, and then maybe in that process giving bad information, giving vibes of, again, you're losing, we're still losing, but we're trying, that type of stuff, and then also getting people to participate in something that essentially is a waste of time. And so let's talk about, for example, we hear some people saying things like, we need to bring our country back, and when we say, wait a minute, you're already talking as if we've lost it. So when you hear folks speaking like that, saying we need to bring our country back, that might be indeed a signal for us to go, wait a minute, why are you speaking as if we've lost our country when clearly we have not? We have plenty of victories with the Canadian Bill of Rights. We can see people are indeed waking up to the truth of, what's been going on and a lot of the manipulation. A lot of people aren't trusting the news. A lot of people have lots to say about the school curriculums and what's going on in that regard. So people are indeed paying attention, and there was quite a few people that are definitely legit. So why are you speaking as if we've lost and we got to win something back? Go ahead.
This group did a, a group photo with some kind of a vehicle behind them that said Chyanada on it.
Okay.
As well, they say we have no constitution, we have no Bill of Rights, because Mulroney signed an international agreement with the UN, so we're just a satellite country of the UN.
So by doing that, they're misguiding people in convincing them that that's actually something that they could do when you and I both know they can't.
Well, this is it. They're saying it's over, like we're done. They're saying we're a communist country and you have no rights. So what are they suggesting when they're suggesting to organize? They're basically saying they're going to have town hall meeting, invite the councillors, tell the councillors they don't want this 15-minute city, and then the councillor will go back into the international structure and spit in the wind. Because I don't even think they have a vote in that structure.
No. I don't believe they do at all.
It's not an official structure. It's
so
what they're trying to replace what we have now with this. And if we act as though that's already been affected, that assists them in that transition, in that reset, basically. It allows that to click over and into place. If everybody believes this is a legitimate international structure that has NGOs on it, by the way, that are sitting there.
Again, define what an NGO is.
A non-governmental organization.
Okay.
So they're sitting on these international boards that will be developing laws to impose on you. Like they're going to decide the perimeters of your consumption, of your ability to move around. Like right now it's 15-minute area, stuff like that from an international NGO. I don't think so. And there's no provision in our constitution for Mulroney or Trudeau or any other prime minister to bounce off to the UN and give away the store without even talking to the people. Just like, here, have it. Do whatever you want. Like
if we understand the Constitution correctly, anyways, really the Constitution is something that cannot be undone. They can only convince you that it has been undone because, from a legal perspective, a lawful perspective, the bottom line is it's either the government has the power or the people has the power. And if the people have the power, then all they can do is give you the illusion that you don't, and therefore then that's when they can start singing the song that they've been, the Constitution's done and that kind of stuff. But this is not something that's negotiable.
Another thing, all your courts are corrupt. Now, don't go to the courts for your redress because it's all corrupt, and all your police are corrupt and all are fascist. They say all your police are fascist, and it was an attempt to brainwash people, and they did a lot of damage. But I believe that most of that's been reversed now. There was a revival of confidence, I could say, in our country and in our laws and in our court. And I think that ultimately actually I'm just going to, as a backdrop, tell you the first time I saw an example of this astroturfing. It would have been back in I think it was early 90s when they were trying to change over, or actually after free trade, they were gutting our social programs. And in Ontario, the provincial government did a study for 5 years into the problems with assistance, whatever. And they came out with this huge document, 500-page document, that was supposed to be a blueprint to reform social services. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. It was a document with a blueprint to completely dismantle everything from the top to the ground. And the Laidlaw Foundation doled out millions and millions and millions of dollars to universities, community centers, and even individuals to put on workshops and do reports on it. But you had to be supporting it. If you weren't supporting it, you didn't get the money. But if you wanted to make one in support of it, you got the money. And they did all kinds of things. They organized a march all across Ontario to go to the legislature and demand that these changes be made immediately even before legislation changes. Okay. Well, these changes were calling for complete withdrawal of mother's allowance, which it is gone, complete withdrawal of vocational rehabilitation, which we had a right to, and it was completely gutted. They tried to, that's a story for another day, but they tried to take out the provincial pension, the permanent pension that we have in Ontario.
Wow.
And it was like hair's breadth. Like, it's a story for another day. It's too much details for now, but that was on the chopping block. And then what else? Oh yeah, we had, and actually this one we did redeem too, and that's another story for another day, how that was redeemed. They also wanted to make assistance based on need, to get rid of that, because we had social safety, or what did they call it? Social Assistance Act or something, the federal act that gave you the standards for social services. I'm gonna have to plug in my phone. That gave you the standards, and one of the standards were, if you want the federal contribution to the provinces for social services, they had to give assistance based on need. So if somebody needed it, you had to give it to them. And that's one of the things they wanted to get rid of. They wanted to make it into conditional entitlement. And they wanted to, and they already did start doing it. So I know exactly what they were intending it to look like. They would say, well, you needed a haircut. That interfered with you getting a job, so you're cut off. And this was even for, like, meant for families, like the heads of families and stuff. And they were putting mothers as employable when the child hit 5, which that wasn't the case before. And anyways, we did redeem some. We kept the pension, and we kept the entitlement based on need on a provincial level, because they did destroy the national standards, but we still maintained, like, they didn't get away with that. But some of the things that they would do, like they would have like invite all the poor people to come and have a symposium on all the changes, and then they'd be up there with, you know, these little perky university people telling you with little charts and everything else how your whole world is going to change for the better soon as the government initiates this shift in welfare policy. And anybody that objected, like, because I was like mine was blowing because it was so intensive attack on the social programs. And I didn't see really any or very little, next to no resistance from anywhere official, you know, any social programs or civil liberties or anything like that. So I was working with other people as well. So we'd show up at these meetings and try and, you know, say, wait a minute, these aren't good changes. Look on page this, or, you know, we had specific, you know, but they had mastered the skill of suppressing any opposition, and right away they would identify, or they would, they probably prepared people, you know, to have an immediate reaction to any criticism as being from someone right wing that hates the poor, and they're trying to, you know, rain on your parade and destroy your chance for this wonderful transition into you know, these wonderful things. So I found it like overwhelming, just like the way the techniques that they had, crowd controlling techniques.
Yep.
And I just felt so overwhelmed by it, because I'm watching poor people march across Ontario trying to demand that these changes be made even before legislation changes. I was like, oh, another story for another day. There was some interesting things that were done around that, but that's astroturfing, because by having the community, like putting the funds into the community centers and university, they would get position reports or papers or whatever on the recommendations in support of. So then it looks like it's being initiated from the community. So it looks like it's a grassroots response to the government's proposed revolutionary improvement of social services. So you get a fake grassroots response, because it's all contrived. The message that comes out is and they have, like, they train them. it's a technique, and it works. It works. Like I watch it working, and I don't know why it doesn't work on me. It doesn't work on me, but it does work, and I find it really frustrating. But what I find really exhilarating is that now I'm seeing that these techniques, at least in the circles that I'm moving in, are not working. People are, like talking back and thinking, analyzing, and choosing uh, the direction, and that's new. That's new for me to look around and see the volume of people that are doing that. Like, what is that? Like autonomy, acting autonomously, acting intelligently, critically thinking, all that. It's a massive amount of it now compared to what it was
And not
when
just buying what they're being told. Don't just suck that up. Don't just suck that in. And the other thing too is that, again, this idea where we have to lobby, right, when we actually don't have to lobby. And in and of that, like when I think about that, it's like, okay, so they're already, the idea on that would be they're already going to do this, but we're just going to try to, hold them back a little bit or twist them a little bit, but they're still going to do what they want to do. But that's what we're saying is no. That's not appropriate. That's, again, astroturfing. That's getting you to think you're making some great change or participating in the decision when really they've made the decision and they're convincing you that this is a great decision, but you're affecting some aspects of the decision when ultimately they still got their desired goal anyways.
Yeah.
And ultimately it works against you
an
as
illusion.
the citizen. It's an illusion.
Yeah, they create an illusion, yeah. But I don't see it working very well. This effort that's going on in Toronto, they're not drawing very many people.
Right.
And it not like when I saw it in the past. It drew many people, and even at the beginning of the whole COVID stuff, these groups popped up, which I learned later were all controlled opposition. I didn't know at the beginning, and I was actually, hopeful that these groups were going to be effective, and they were drawing large numbers and stuff like that, like Hugs Over Mask, for example. I thought that was like, this is what we need to do, and I was very hopeful that was going to provide a group response to what was happening, but it wasn't. It was a distraction, and the stuff they did was benign. I call it, right? Like make noise, but no action that has any punch to it. And Rebecca came out of that process. She was one of the organizers, and when she realized this isn't going anywhere, she totally realized. And not only her, there was four of them, three of them left at the same time because they wanted to do that action of arrest the mayors. And that they were very serious, and the trustees, because of what they were doing to the kids in school with the mask and all that stuff. And that's how I first was talking with Rebecca, because that they had already decided they're going to do that, and they were looking for a legal opinion. So I provided one, and I got one from Normala, a lawyer friend of mine, and her daughter, who's also a lawyer. We looked at the charges, and we looked at the grounds for the charges, and we issued an opinion that, yes, indeed, these actions do qualify as crimes. Like, for example, a mask, they're forcing you to ingest a toxic or noxious substance, which is carbon dioxide. So that one qualifies, as far as I'm concerned. And there are many other. There was, I think, 5 charges altogether. And so I thought that was really good. It was really effective too. It really it started the whole, move towards like we need to do something concrete, something legal, something effective, and so
astroturfing does not do that, and that's why it's there. It doesn't do
exactly.
Right. So ultimately,
goes nowhere. Yeah,
goes nowhere, yeah. But it's to give you some hope, steers you off the true path, the better ideas. because
Yeah.
we do, as you've said, we have the legal structure. Canadian Bill of
Yeah.
Rights is one that
Yeah.
clearly we also are digging more and more into the Magna Carta and even times from before,
Yeah.
and understanding what a constitution is and things of this nature, and really, really trying to show people, no, we have the legal structure. They're just giving you the illusion that you don't. And so when you were saying before, when people say, don't go to the courts, they're all corrupt. Well, no. Go to the court. Just don't go to the court with the corrupt charter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's what we're saying.
Exactly.
We're saying, no, go to the courts. Just don't go there with the charter that clearly Section 1 puts reasonable limits. And then so that's another part of the setup, right? And that's how another way you can kind of recognize someone that's going in the wrong direction, particularly if they seem to be reasonably intelligent. If they have not put it together that the Section 1 is going to be damaging, and because we already have losses too, right? So the proof is already in the pudding, and then we have victories with the bill. So clearly there's a structure there that can work. You just have to go and make sure you use the proper things, and definitely avoid the what I like to call the poo-poo charter. So it's not don't go. It's not don't go. We're not saying don't go to court. We're saying go to court, but we're saying go there with the proper tools.
Exactly. Rebecca, when she did the Trudeau for Treason Trail, one item that she brought up, because they went to city halls, right? Because you don't have a provincial legislature in every city. So they went to city halls. So they did a spot each time on 15-minute cities. And she also developed an NOL for 15-minute cities, which primarily says, if it's for the councillor or the mayor, it says you have 7 days to withdraw your support of whatever. Like, they have different names for different cities, but it's all the same thing. It was with the bike pass, and they're trying to like make districts and all this stuff.
Yeah,
she's
limit people's movements and things of this nature, right?
Yeah. So she says in her NOL, you have 7 days to publicly remove your support of that policy, or that, whatever they call it, mandate.
And that's something
and
that
if you don't,
any individual can do this from whatever city that they're in. You know that, and remember, guys, they do have different names for this thing. So try to find out what they're naming it in your area, because they don't all. In fact, I don't know that any of them actually call it
strategic plan.
Strategic
I
plan.
couldn't remember it earlier.
Yeah, that's
a common one. In Ottawa, it's called strategic plan. In Toronto, it's called strategic plan. But it's 15-minute city. It's the same thing. Anyways, so part of what she was saying is the rectification is for them to withdraw their support of the strategic plan. And if they don't in 7 days, they're going to be sued in small claims court.
Right. And then when you say sue them, you're suing them personally.
Personally, yes. And that's a big, important part of what we're saying. We have the case law, Ron Sorelli versus Duplessis, that says if an official acts outside their authority, which in this case they have, because they have a fiduciary duty, which means they have to act in your interest. Yeah. And there's also a process issue that they must respect, and that is consultation with the public, and they didn't have that, and they're not respecting a fiduciary duty either. So there's like they don't have the capacity to maintain that was proper execution of their duties. So I think that's a really good lawsuit. So what happens with this Astroturfing group? They tried to hook up with Rebecca, and she didn't know where they came from, and why are you, what are you doing? And then they started saying they were using her NOL, and then put it up on their website. And Rebecca's like, what are you doing? Like, you fine if you want to use it, but like you're promoting it as if we're aligned, and we're not aligned, because you're going around saying things like we have no constitution, we have no Bill of Rights, and all of this. So we're not aligned. So stop doing that. Take that off of there. So then the next thing she says, she does a video, and she says she has an NOL that was going to be served on Monday, but she decided not to do it because it's not ready yet, because it doesn't have it doesn't have a solution. And you can do the NOL for Stand for Thee, or what is it, Action Canada, but they're not good, because they just say to whatever respond to the NOL, or they're going to owe money. So those are no good. Well, yes, they are good. Like if they're going to be going bankrupt because they're screwing the public, and they stop screwing the public because of that, that's good.
And remember, by the way, everybody, because I know you're hearing small claims, but remember, you're not limited to one person, because that would be each individual. So if 100 people, everybody. For example, 100 people sue for 35 grand, add 2 zeros, right? If 1,000 people sue for 35 grand, add 3 zeros to 35 grand, you're dealing with anywhere from 3.5 million to 35 million, if I got my math correct,
and then
here.
Plus their legal fees. Plus the legal fees.
So
you're
talking
add another
about
5 million to that. Yeah.
So if you're talking about that kind of, so remember this NOL in this small claims court. And by the way, you can use the Bill of Rights in small claims court.
Yes.
By the way.
Yes.
So
yes,
that's another advantage. So these are the types of moves where you get the people on the ground that are, let's say, where you're face to face, get them to have to answer to what they're doing, because ultimately, folks, it's all about who's liable, and ultimately it's the person who's operating. And if that person is operating, as you were saying, against their duties, then you as a citizen have every right to bring them into a small claims court. And again, if 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 people do that, when you start multiplying those numbers, 10,000, 20 or 35 grand in Ontario is the small claims limit, but you multiply that by 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, you got something going on there.
Yeah. And I would say the very fact that they're putting trained and paid shills after Rebecca's NOL, I would say it's a pretty hot NOL.
It must be. Otherwise, they wouldn't waste their time with it.
Well, this is it. And they're trying to derail it. I guess they can see the potential, and they can see that people are responding. Like Rebecca has a good audience, especially for that, because she went right across Canada. So, and then there was videos made each publication, or each presentation that she made in each city and town. So that I think they were worried, and also too, that I think that campaign was very effective, because Trudeau tried to do a trip across Canada, and somebody made a compilation of where he visited in each city and town, and people were screaming, "Traitor, traitor!" So that's pretty good. So I think we have what you call critical mass now.
Right. And if you don't mind me saying this, that the idea of suing the individual civil servant, whoever that constituent is, what that also does, it takes away that psychological illusion that they seem to have that, well, I'm protected by the state anyways. Nothing's going to happen to me. So, even if I'm wrong, I'm covered. No. Yeah. Not when we take you personally for what you did. That comes out of your pocket, and it erases that illusion that they're protected. Yeah. No matter what they do or say, they're protected. No, you're not. Not if we take you personally to small claims court, and that takes that illusion away from them. And then they might start going, wait a minute here, then if that can happen, I'm not protected, and I didn't sign up for that. And that's another reason why this move is indeed very, I think, dangerous to the opposition.
Exactly. And other things you can do too. Everything's capped. Like it's 15% of what you're asking for. So that could be, if you're asking for 35,000, be 5,200, and that's for the legal costs for the other party. His legal costs are going to be 50,000 and up, but all you have to pay is 5,200 or less. If you ask for less, like if you ask for 1,000, you pay 150. But you can do other things. You could join with other people. Like if you wanted to still leave it at 35, you could join with like 5 people and then split it. And split the work too, which would be also good, to prepare the paperwork and filing and different things like that. But all those fees are really, fees are capped.
And so that would, by the way, that would be if the person actually lost. That would be in the case if they lost. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Just if they lost. Yeah. There's no fee. If you have no lawyer, there's no fee. And you can still get consultation with lawyers without turning it over to them and getting a great big bill. You can do all the work, go as far as you can get yourself. And then if you have questions, you can just book a consultation and get the answers to the questions and then move on from there.
Right.
And
so
that would be really cheap if you did it in group, like a group group of 5, and then you just, throw in the hat.
Right.
Lawyer's going to charge maybe somewhere between 300 and 500 an hour. But if there's 5 people, it's not so dramatic then.
Right. So, and basically what you're doing is you're saying, this is an approach you could take to keep the risk lower. So if that is a little bit too risky for you, but if 3 or 4 or 5 or even 9 other people, a group of 5 or 10 to pitch in together, you're still having an effect. And quite frankly, you're also inconveniencing that person that they're going to have to show up, or someone's going to have to show up on their behalf one way or the other. And,
no, they have to be there. They have to be there.
Themselves.
Our system requires that you win if they don't show up. And you can make them go on the stand and say, what the hell were you thinking when you voted on that?
Right.
You're going to lock people in 15-minute radius of their home and all that
comes against, just so we're clear, that comes against the Canadian Bill of Rights, because we always like to go there, and it comes against the Bill of Rights, life and liberty.
Yep.
Right? That literally comes flying in the face. And by the way, this is another reason, folks, even telling people about the Bill of Rights and telling them to flush the charter down the toilet, that's another thing, because these ideas empower each citizen. So what I think that, Jane is suggesting, and that's what we're all, I think Rebecca and Dave Freedom and myself and, my good brother Dom here, we're suggesting that each person participates rather than waiting for some huge conglomerate of some kind with a, kind of a centerpiece person to show up to drag this all. No, the likelihood of that. And plus, again, you're still saying that the government has the power. We just need better people in the government. No, the people have the power. And clearly, when you look at the Bill of Rights, it says you cannot. People have a right to life and liberty. And then you're trying to create locations called, it was called strategic plans, 15-minute cities and things of this nature. Well, excuse me, but if there's limitations here, limitations of movement and things of this nature, that comes flying right against. Comes right against. The basic rights of a human being. So that should that should be turned on its head immediately. That shouldn't even visit the constituent's mind. So if they're way off, that far off, this isn't something we negotiate with them. We tell them they're just wrong and they can't do it, period. And that's the attitude we have to have.
To reinforce what I said earlier, it appears as though this is considered to be a powerful approach. If it was true that we have no constitution and we have no Bill of Rights and all the courts are corrupt, why would they give a shit?
Right. Yeah. Why would they care? Why would they care? Why are you even bothering? Right.
Yeah.
But of course, now we're also,
they
are bothering big time. Yeah. And of course we've mentioned it before. We'll mention it again. We're getting charges dropped. Motions are getting, go ahead.
I have one from today. I have a jury thing for you today. It's beautiful. I won't say the fellow's name because I didn't ask him, but he's somebody that contacted Dave recently, and he has convoy charges for them. And the Crown was telling him that they were looking for significant jail time. So Dave said, well, why don't you ask for a jury? And he showed him the form. And so he did it, sent it in. Next thing you know, Crown comes back, would you like to make a deal? And the deal was to reduce everything to $1,000 fine and 50 hours community service and conditional discharge, meaning no criminal record.
Okay.
And you know what he said?
He said, no, I'm not taking the deal.
Yeah. And they have him down as indictable. So he's actually eligible for a jury, and they offered him this discharge. You're eligible for a jury because they're looking for more than 5 years or whatever. Maybe I don't know in that case if they were looking more than 5 years, but the crimes that they charged him with qualified him for a jury for sure. That was confirmed in court today. So why would they offer such a wonderful deal when he said, you know what, let's go, but I'm getting a jury. Oh, hold on. We got something for you. As soon as you see that, that they know that if you get a jury, this is not going to see through, right? No. So that's and
the
they did the same thing to Byron.
They did the same thing with Byron.
Exact same thing to Byron. Yeah, they were treating him like he was middle management. They called him or an organizer, and they had him in jail 41 days at the beginning of when it was first broken up, the convoy, And then all the whole time before he went self-rep, they were treating it like it was serious, and they didn't give him any let up. He had severe conditions on himself. He couldn't go on any social media at all, not even an email to somebody, personal email to anybody, and restrictions on his, like, he had to go back to Alberta. He couldn't move out of Alberta, and he couldn't even move out of the place he lived without a court order. Like,
Yeah,
so if
that's
he wanted
incredible.
to move down, yeah, and two sureties, he had to have two sureties, and forget what else, like a whole freaking list of crap, and that went on for a year and a half, and all of a sudden they got all friendly. He said, "I want a jury," and then they offered him a deal. It wasn't as good as this deal, but it was good. Like, compared to, they're talking about jail time, and all of a sudden they said if he pleads guilty to all 4 charges, they'll give him 6 months probation.
Right. So
So for middle
comparatively speaking,
management,
right.
serious crime, blah blah blah.
And the key
It
thing
takes
here
all
is
this.
the key thing is that they made this offer after he said, okay,
Yes,
I want a jury. Boom.
yes,
That is a
yeah, yeah,
communication. You have to read between the lines. That's a
yeah,
communication where they don't
yeah,
want to start a trend of getting juries again,
yeah,
because they have
yeah,
done a pretty good job in the last few decades in kind of
yeah,
erasing that from people's minds. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Our
But
memory, that
our
we have a
memory,
right
right?
to it.
But
Yeah,
now if we're starting to bring it back, that's going to
yeah,
really whittle down their plans. And if people start talking about it, I don't
yeah,
care if you have to use memes. I don't care how you have to communicate. The trial by jury is huge, because remember, the jury doesn't vote whether you're guilty or not. It's not a voting situation. It's, you have to convince 12 people from the community that that person is guilty of the charge. And you also get to make the decision as to whether the charge was even viable, or the law itself that the person is being charged under is even is lawful. And clearly your right to protest is defined, and your right to life and liberty is defined, and your right to enjoyment of property, which would include, of course, a vehicle or a truck, all that, and freedom of speech and things of this nature, completely covered in the Canadian Bill of Rights. And the odds of you getting 12 people all to agree that that was inappropriate and you're guilty is a lot slimmer
well,
than getting one
they all,
state paid judge to vote against you,
yeah.
right?
Well, they already know that 70% of people did not agree with the invocation of the Emergency Act against
There you go.
truckers. Even
Right.
if they didn't agree with the protest, they still didn't agree with the invocation. So
Right.
that means to say that's going to probably be, roughly what kind of percentage you're going to get on the jury. And then they're
Right.
going to be looking for nullification too, because
And
the Emergency Act wasn't invoked legally, and it
right.
violated rights, and so on, so on. And I think that's going to be an easy sell for a jury to show
Yeah.
them, like,
And
here
and
the
that's
act says this, but they did this. The act says this, but they did this, and so on. There's about 5 key violations that are easy to demonstrate. They're not subtle or
yes.
obscured or whatever. They're right in your face. In
And
fact, I
juries,
think they were deliberately violating the Emergency Act to give themselves the precedent to be able to loosely do those activities. I
right.
think they were trying to. They were, you know what I mean? Because they could have got a vote in cabinet after they consulted with the provinces, but they didn't do that.
Right. Right.
They said to
And
Trudeau, "Go ahead and talk to the provinces, and then do whatever you want."
so once
So they
again,
didn't come
that
back.
same idea of just giving people the illusion that even though it's unlawful, oh no, it's not unlawful. Look, he did it before, right? But no, but
Yeah,
that just
yeah,
because he did it
yeah,
doesn't mean it was
yeah,
lawful. And so and then you also have that jury situation that they erase that out of people's minds. If you bring that back, that's a huge threat to controlled op. That's to
yeah,
astroturfing, to any
yeah,
kind of government that's trying to sell us out or be underhanded in any shape, way, or form, or in bed with some big money makers out there. The trial by jury is a huge answer to this problem. So they don't want that to enter in. And remember, the juries also get to vote. I'm sure you'll back this up with their conscience too, right? Because they'll
yes.
look at the individual
That's what they're
situation and
supposed
say,
to do.
okay, they're supposed to do that, and that's because every situation could be potentially different. But we know that in this case, if someone gets a trial by jury and they are victorious, then that's going to create a domino effect where it goes boom, 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 and it's going to be a
Yeah,
huge problem for them and they're going to have to take a big step backwards. And of course, that's going to revive the idea. Just like there's a revival on the Bill of Rights. More and more people are talking about the Canadian Bill of Rights. More and more people are talking about the Constitution and the Magna Carta. More and more people are talking about trial by jury. And all those things are a threat because you're not laying all the power into the government's hand in a state-paid judge. And so, and people being defiant, if you will, in the sense of, being willing to be defiant towards the charter and say, no, that thing is a piece of garbage. And they're starting to understand that. And so the more and more people talk about it, I think the more they're going to be recognizing that we're not going to be laying down for this. And this is, again, an individual. Every individual can know this, empower themselves, act on it in some shape, way, or form. Everybody has a different degree, but you can do it, as opposed to wait for someone to show up on the right. Let's go from, this party, if you will, liberals, to these guys, because these guys are going to have the answer. No. I'm going to suggest to you that still leaves too much power in the state's hand, and actually we are the ones, individually, and then of course ultimately collectively. And there's just certain things, by the way, that aren't even negotiable anyways, like freedom to life and liberty, and enjoyment of property. That's not negotiable anyways.
It's funny that you use the word collectively, because I was literally just thinking of that. That was the next point I was going to raise, because I was thinking of what's happening with the preparation of documents for the various issues that we have going on with Stand for Thee. And it's awesome what is occurring. And B, for example, he's challenging, like they charged him with causing a disturbance under a municipal bylaw called causing a disturbance, which has got the exact same verbiage as the criminal code. So they have no authority to be making criminal law in the municipality. So he's challenging that. And he's challenging what he's calling taxation, because they fined him $1,500 for that issue. So he's saying that municipalities can't tax, because it says in the charter, bite my lip, in the Constitution, that it's exclusively federal jurisdiction for taxation. But I'm getting off a little bit, but what I'm getting at is Hosanna and Liliana and Rebecca were all making similar challenges with regard to their cases. So all the information got shared back and forth. So they picked my brain at the beginning, but the end result wasn't coming out. Like, I can't say I did that. No way. I feel part of it. I don't feel diminished or, I feel, but the collective, that's what the word came to me, and I was going to say it, and then you used the word, but that's awesome. It's extremely powerful.
What's cool about it is because it's individual still, right? So each person having their own individual rights, if you will, and all the individuals that recognize that at its core can collectively exchange the information based on individuality, right?
Yeah, that's what's happening.
That's what's happening.
Very powerful.
You're not losing your individualness in the process. You're not handing it over. You're still an individual maintaining your own rights, and then you're connecting with others that have the same positioning.
V, who has no legal training whatsoever, he did all his own documentation, which was 2 constitutional challenges, 2 of them. I know. Geez, why do I say that? And then 2 of them. And then he did a request for jury. And the judge said that he wanted a break. And he said, you're obviously, or how did he put it? Something like, I'm obviously directing, like the legal direction. And I obviously wrote all of his paperwork. Obviously, he says, right on the record. I didn't write one word, not one word. Like, he picked my brains. I'm not saying I had nothing to do with it, but he wrote it all and researched it. It's not just he just picked my brain and just wrote what I said and that was the end of it. He took what I had, extended on it, shared it, got other information that Liliana found, that Rebecca found, and blah, 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 and, incorporated it in his total presentation. So, but he was very proud of that, Very proud of the fact that he could say not one word. She didn't write one word. And then Rebecca's like, pipes up, you didn't write one word of mine either, did you? And I said, no, and mine. And everybody's going, you didn't write one word of mine. And even Kimberly Wolin I didn't write one word curse either. So, which
It's
is
amazing.
really, really cool. Yeah. But I
Well,
mean, I give feedback, and I'm part of the process, and I don't feel diminished. It's not like I feel like, oh, this is
no,
going on. I have nothing to do with it. I feel like I'm, an integral part of it, but not the end all be all, which is what makes it so powerful. And it's spiritual, I would even say. It's like solidarity, the effect of solidarity, the effect of it or something, the collectivity. It's just, we're bigger than the, whatever, like we're more together.
that's great. That's great. You know
Yeah.
what? I don't think there's a better way to end this interview right there. That was beautiful. That was perfect. So thank you, Jane, so much for coming on. I know you got some stuff. I know you got a meeting here. I know that. So
Yeah.
I just appreciate you taking the time to offer all this information and helping people out and helping me
Yeah.
out and keeping us informed and keeping people aware and to basically be individuals that know and can stand in the
Yeah.
truth, that we definitely have a good structure that they can rely upon. And so I really appreciate this time that you took with me today. And I look forward to the next subject, because we're going to talk this week, because I got another subject in mind to talk about.
And the NOL, it's Notice of Liability, that stands for the 15-minute city, is on standforthe.ca.
Yeah,
You
so
can
it's
download it,
stand,
use it, adapt
STAND.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
STAND,
For
the number
yeah.
4,
Yeah. For
THEE.com.
yeah.
Okay.
And no,
And
well, .ca.
I think you can actually do both, .com and
You go
.ca.
both.
But
Yeah.
either way, you'll
Okay.
see it's going to be
Yeah,
red
you'll
and
get
white.
it.
You should, and it's
Yeah.
under and the NOL section for the
Yeah.
the 15-minute / again, just to keep this word in your minds, everybody,
Yeah.
the strategic plan. Okay.
Yeah, and they're free for anybody to use whatever way you want. You can modify them, and it has to be adapted to your own situation. And we also have another one with regard to the discrimination and sexualization of the children in schools, and I think it's done very well too.
Okay.
And that could be for teacher, principal, trustee, and minister of education.
That's awesome. Okay, great.
Yep.
So guys, get on that site, check some stuff out, modify it to your liking, get informed about that, because you can definitely use this information to not only help yourself, but in turn, eventually, right, as an individual, you can become collective with others and help a lot of folks. So thank you again, Jane, for tuning in with me here and having this interview with me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Dom, for doing the techie work. I appreciate that. And all of you that are watching this video, feel free to share the news, folks, and empower others with the same information. All right. So thanks again, guys. Thank you, Dom. Thank you, Jane.
Okay. Thank you,
Shade,
and thank you, Dom. And hashtag we got this.
We got this. God bless.